Ikigai, it's a Japanese term that roughly translates into your reason for being. And if we haven't met before, my name is Gio Pensino. And what I do is I help innovators and entrepreneurs find clarity for designing a business, a career, or a social impact project doing what you love. And so, some of the things that absolutely fascinate me in this area are people who have gone before us. People like Sarah Blakely, the youngest female billionaire in America, who started off with just an idea and $5,000 and grew that into $1 billion company, Spanx, that you're probably familiar with. Also, Steve Jobs, with a similar kind of background, dropped out of college after his second semester of college. And again, the commonality here, and it's captured in his quote here, which is the only way to do great work is to love what you do. And that's really what the whole focus of Ikigai and discovering what your reason for being is all about. And so, what I'm giving an introduction to today is the framework that the Ikigai is built around. And I say that it's a framework for creating a lifetime of freedom because when you're doing what you love on a daily basis, like you're doing what you love for your work, there's no greater freedom because it ends up that you don't even feel like you're working at all. And so the Ikigai framework is built on four key areas. And that's what I'm going to run through today. I'm going to give you an introduction to it and kind of show you how to actually use this model. And so it starts off the first aspect of understanding and developing awareness for your reason for being is determining what you're naturally gifted at. And this is the first part of the Ikigai model, the Ikigai Venn diagram. What are your natural gifts and your natural talents? And the way to discover this is to look at the things that you're naturally drawn to do, the things that you're naturally interested in doing. And oftentimes, the clues for what your natural interests are and your natural gifts can be found in your young years. And so many entrepreneurs, when they come up and maybe they do a TED talk or they talk about their origins, they talk about their first lemonade stand or the first, thing that they did, their first entrepreneurial adventure. And I know that was certainly true in my life. I have a love for business. I have a love for developing ideas from nothing into things that produce income, that produce value, that give people what they need. So, looking back into your young years and looking at the things that you always have dreamt about, a lot of it is in your imagination. And again, when you go back to your young years before you were influenced by all the ideas about what you should do and what pays the most money and what your college or high school counselor told you to do, you had dreams. And one of the ways you can ask yourself, but you can also ask people who know you really well. This is one of the tools that you can unearth this thing, this awareness for what your natural gifts are. Asking people who know you the best, asking your family, asking your parents. Nobody knows you better than your parents, and they will tell you the crazy things that you used to do when you were 8, 9, 10, 12, 14 years old. And that's kind of the age range that, again, before you were influenced by all these logical notions, you came into this world, you started to develop, and your individuality started to develop before, again, your influence. So 8, 9, 10, 12, 13, 14 years old, what were you doing? What were you interested in? What were you dreaming about? What were you playing with? What were some of the characteristics that identified like your person? And asking your parents is one of the best places to go. Now, of course, we can use more logical tools as well. And when I'm coaching and consulting and helping innovators to find out what their gifts are, I don't have access necessarily to their young years. I might ask them, but one of the logical tools, there's many profiling tools, and StrengthsFinder 2.0 is one of the ones that I use, and you can find it right here at this address here, this gallup.com/Clifton Strengths Finders. And StrengthsFinder is it's a test, but it's kind of a movement as well. And the movement is a lot of what we're talking about right now, which is rather than chasing what pays the most, or what your guidance counselor tells you to do, looking and discovering what you're naturally gifted at, using that as the foundation. The second part of the Ikigai methodology is discovering what your interests and what your passions are. So not so much your gifts, but your passions, the things that you're naturally interested in, the things that you love to do. And this is sometimes the area that people jump off in terms of choosing a career that they really like. It's, what do you naturally love to do? What are you interested in? Like when you go to the library, you go to the bookshelf, like what is it that interests you, that captures your interests? Maybe it's spending time with people. Maybe it's spending time with animals. Maybe it's plants. Maybe it's the natural environment. Maybe you're like myself. Maybe you're a total nerd. Maybe you're a technology person and you're just like totally fascinated with mathematics or how technology works, or maybe photography or dance or movement or psychology. So asking yourself what naturally interests you and what are you passionate about? I know myself, it took me a little while to become aware that I'm naturally gifted at speaking. I love to travel, and these are things that I'm just passionate about. So what are you passionate about? The third area is, what do people need? And this is where we start to bring it all together. And one of the things that people who are entrepreneurs and innovators, they ask this question, like, what are the problems that people are having? And what are people obsessing about, like right now? And we're kind of gone through this pandemic time, and we have a lot of people that are questioning about their jobs and how they work and how they live. So people are obsessing about that. People are obsessing, of course, about their health as we're particularly coming out of the pandemic, and people are realizing that the people that were affected most by the pandemic were people who didn't have really good health, that were obese, and all these issues related to health. So people are really obsessing about that right now. And the fourth area of the Ikigai model, and this is absolutely critical, is what are people willing to pay for? So what can you be paid for doing? And this is in the realm of, like, what do people value? So you might have something that you're really passionate about, something that you're gifted at, but maybe other people don't really value it. So you got to fit what those previous three areas, those previous three aspects of the Ikigai, into this fourth final area. And what do people value? What are they willing to pay for? And there's four kind of what we call top level niches, that are the kind of top level of categories of what people are most willing to pay for. And they have to do with money, health, and relationships. So when it comes to money, and it doesn't have to be just the exchange of money, but anything that adds to people's wealth, that helps people to become more efficient at their ability to make money. And what is money anyways? Money is really the kind of foundation for how we take care of ourselves, for how we provide for ourselves. So it's that base level value. Without the ability to take care of ourselves, to provide for our families, then not a lot else matters. So it's not just money, but it's what money represents. The second area is, or the second top niche is health. A lot of people say, and I believe this myself, that without health, that you don't have anything. And so anything that has to do with helping people to realize better health, better mental health, better clarity of mind, better energy in their bodies, overcoming health challenges, that's extremely important to people, and they're willing to pay for that. The third area is relationships. So anything that has to do with helping people to develop better relationships, and whether that's relationships at work, the ability to have influence and persuasion within relationships, anything that has to do with your ability to be better at relating to other people. And of course, that also comes to love relationships, intimate relationships, relationships with family, relationship with friends, relationship with coworkers. This is all this top level category of what's really important to people and what they're willing to pay for. So that's the Ikigai model in a nutshell. And this is a process, again, for discovering how to take the assessment of these 4 key areas. What are you good at? What do you love to do? What does the world need? And what do people pay for? So these 4 categories, these 4 framework questions are really the tool for developing a life of freedom, discovering your way in the world in terms of finding work that you love, building a business that you love, or creating a social impact project that impacts a lot of lives. This model is the framework that brings all that together. And the next steps for taking the next steps, Tony Robbins always says, he's one of my mentors, Tony Robbins says, never leave the site of a new learning or a meeting without taking some action. Because it's great that you listened to this, and hopefully this was educational, but without taking action, it just remains as a conceptual idea. And I want it to be so much more than that. I want it to be, for you, the foundation, like I said, for creating a lifetime of freedom, a lifetime of purpose, a lifetime of doing work that you love, that other people value and are willing to pay for. So the next steps to take, the action steps, again, you've got to take some action. And it doesn't matter how small those action steps are, but if you just take some action steps right now and move forward, and one of those action steps is to go through and actually do this process for yourself. You can rewind and go back to the beginning and look at those 4 areas and get a notebook. Maybe the first step is to get a notebook. Maybe that's the very first step for you. Or the teeniest step is to make a date to go get a notebook, and then go get your notebook, and then do this process, write it out. The other next step that you could take is you could schedule a pivot to purpose discovery call with me. This is what I help people to do. I help people to discover these 4 areas, to answer these 4 questions. And again, not just in an intellectual way. It starts off that way. We use our intellect to answer the questions, but then we go through the process in order to have the end result being a job, a business, a career that you absolutely love to wake up and do. Monday becomes your very favorite day of the week. That's how it is for me. I've lived my entire life using these principles. I've built a business with over $12 million in sales, doing exactly what I love. And I recognize how other people do this. Ben and Jerry's one of my inspirations. They say, if it's not fun, why do it? So if I can help you, you can go ahead and below this video, you'll see a link to my website, and you can schedule a Pivot to Purpose discovery call with me. At this time right now, those calls are complimentary. If you wait too long, it may change in the future. Right now, those calls are complimentary. My schedule does fill up, especially when I do speaking arrangements, speaking engagements. It often fills up sometimes a couple of months in advance, but you can go to the link right below this video and schedule a Pivot to Purpose discovery call with me. It's about a 30-minute call. We go through a set of questions and create clarity around this Ikigai, this reason for being, and then see if taking the next step of working together is an appropriate path. So thanks so much for listening. And like I said, take action on this, no matter how small that step is. If it's just putting it on your calendar, like I'm going to do this, tomorrow at 2 o'clock, or after work, I'm going to go and get myself a notebook, or I need to get some paper to get started, whatever that is, make a commitment right now to take some action. Action is the only way. Action trumps knowledge every day of the week. So take some action and move yourself closer towards creating a lifetime of freedom, purpose, and doing what you love.